A little over 4 years ago, Subaru introduced their most capable compact SUV ever with the introduction of the first ever Forester Wilderness all the way back in late 2021. Now at the time, the Wilderness brand was still very new, first debuting on the Outback. It was designed to be an experiment to see if there were actually customers looking for an even more off-road capable Subaru. Of course, since then, sales have taken off, and Subaru claims that the Wilderness trim of their models accounts for nearly 20% of the total sales mix. Now, about 2 years ago, Subaru introduced an all-new 6th generation Forester, completely redesigning the car, offering up a hybrid and of course a more capable Wilderness version. However, the company decided to hold off on showing the Wilderness by about a year. Now, we already had a chance to drive the all-new Forester Wilderness out in Portland, Oregon about 4 months ago. However, this week, as you can see, Subaru has loaned us the car for a full week. This model right here is the latest 2026 Forester Wilderness, painted in a new color for this generation called River Rock Pearl. And the big question I want answered, for those of you who have had your eye on a Subaru Forester, has the company made their all-new 6th generation even better with the reintroduction of the Wilderness? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the unique styling that Subaru gave the Wilderness version of the new Forester, I thought I'd pop the hood, of course, and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, here in America, Subaru offers a choice between 2 different engines. The hybrid model is probably the one that I would recommend easily. However, if you want the Wilderness trim, it only comes with the base engine, which is Subaru's 2.5-liter naturally aspirated Boxer Flat 4. Now, as you can see underneath the hood, you're gonna find a very familiar engine, and that's because this engine is largely a carryover motor from the previous generation. It did lose 2 horsepower, but it gained 2 pound-feet of torque. It's still the company's F25A. It's a 2.5-liter Boxer gasoline direct injection 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated, of course. It still makes 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. Remember, the hybrid powertrain, which we recently spent a full week with last year, offers up to 194 horsepower, but because this lacks, of course, the electric motors and the battery pack, this model is around 300 pounds lighter. Now, it all goes out through a Lineartronic CVT that has been beefed up that offers 8 virtual ratios, and of course, this is a Subaru product, so their symmetrical all-wheel drive system is standard. This model also comes with their dual function X mode, which is an upgraded off-road traction management software system that only the Wilderness version gets. Now, of course, with all the extra off-road hardware, the gas mileage does go down on this Wilderness Forester to 24 in the city and 28 on the highway. That's about the same as the previous generation, but it's a pretty significant downgrade versus the 26-33 that you get on the regular Forester with this powertrain, or the 35-34 that you get with the hybrid. I would love to see Subaru offer the hybrid powertrain on the Wilderness at some point. Now, with its 16.6 gallon fuel tank, you're looking at around 430 miles of range on a full tank. That is on regular fuel. So that's actually pretty impressive range thanks to that big gas tank. Subaru doesn't claim a 0 to 60 time. The last Forester Wilderness we tested out in Oregon at elevation did it in like 9.7 seconds. So I suspect it's going to be much faster now that I have the vehicle back home at sea level. Top speed should be around 115 miles an hour. And of course, with the Wilderness models, if you guys plan to tow, Subaru actually beefs up the tow rating. This will tow up to 3,500 pounds. That's actually 500 more versus the previous generation, and it's 2,000 more versus a regular Forester. As this car sits, it weighs in at just under 3,700 pounds. So again, it's around 200 to 300 pounds lighter versus the last hybrid version of the Forester that I tested. Now, once you close the hood and take a look at the exterior styling of the Forester Wilderness, you're really gonna see a lot of distinctive cues here to let you know this is the most off-road capable version of the Forester. In fact, when this generation first came out, I really wasn't the biggest fan of the exterior styling, but I have to say the Wilderness definitely takes things up a notch. This particular color that I'm showing you, like I said earlier, is called River Rock Pearl. It's an extra $500, and it certainly looks good. It's kind of like a warm gray with a metallic fleck to it. This color is available on other trims of the Forester, but it really looks good along the lines of the Wilderness trim. You can see the Wilderness includes this kind of matte black hood decal that's designed to reduce glare if you guys are driving off-road, going up a mountain or a hill with the sun reflecting back in your face. That'll keep that from happening. Of course, the hexagonal grille has been enlarged with some different inlets and textures. Of course, this is all kind of a matte black plastic design with kind of like a triangular textured look. Which definitely gives it a more rugged design with the Subaru logo. You do get just a front camera with the Wilderness models, not a full 360 cam. You can get that on the upper trims of the Forester, but the Wilderness just comes with that single front camera. You can see the headlights. These are the Subaru hexagonal, or not hexagonal, they're steering adaptive responsive LED headlights. So you can see the headlights themselves. You have an LED low and high beam, just an incandescent turn signal, however, along with an LED daytime running light. The Wilderness also gets a unique hexagonal LED fog light, which looks really good versus the standard fog lights on other models. I also really like the anodized copper trim. If you take that off, you're going to find the front tow hooks, which are necessary if you plan to take this vehicle off-roading. And then down here, you can see it's got some more silver metallic accents. The car itself has a completely different front bumper, so the approach and departure angles are much better. Subaru also raises up the suspension even further, offering up to 9.3 inches of ground clearance, and you also have some underbody steel skid plates underneath. So it's actually got some hardware here to make this vehicle more off-road capable, which is unlike a lot of its rivals, which essentially just basically give you some different look, badging, and some all-terrain tires. Subaru goes a step further by giving us more ground clearance, skid plates, all-terrain tires, and an entirely different look. So that's one of the reasons why the Wilderness versions of Subaru actually get some street cred among off-roaders. Now, moving around the side profile, this is a compact SUV that slots between the Crosstrek and the Outback, of course, with a 182.9-inch overall length and a 104.9-inch wheelbase. This is actually a pretty good size in the compact crossover segment. Surprisingly, the Wilderness model is around 0.2 inches shorter than other versions of the Forester. If you guys are comparing it to like a Crosstrek, this is 6.5 inches longer, and Outback is roughly 10 inches or 9 inches longer than this vehicle still. It's around 72 inches wide and just under 70 inches tall. Now, looking at the wheels, you can see Subaru did upgrade the tires for the 2026 model year Wilderness. You still have a 17-inch matte black design, which has a much more rugged look to it, with the outer lip kind of more inlaid to keep it from getting damaged when you're off-roading. The tires are a Yokohama Geolander all-terrain. It's riding on a 235 width tire, so it's around 10 millimeters wider than before. Front brakes measure 12.4 inches, 11.8 inches at the rear. And then this vehicle's raised suspension, as you can see, gives you up to 9.3 inches of ground clearance. That's 0.1 inches more than the previous generation, and it's also a good deal more versus the 8.7 on the standard Forester. You can see the cladding along the vehicle also has some functional openings there. It's a tasteful amount of cladding. You can really see the difference there for the front approach angle because of that redesigned bumper. I think it looks really good. I actually think that this area here could use some kind of like trim piece there, like maybe some anodized copper or an LED accent light. I imagine that's possibly something owners may add to their actual Wilderness Foresters. You can see there's that typical Wilderness badge. The side mirror has kind of like a matte gray finish to it, which is nice. You have integrated turn signals. You've got the Subaru blind spot information system, of course, on these mirrors are also heated. I like how the Wilderness doesn't have any chrome trim. Instead, it's just kind of all blacked out. And you also have these functional raised roof rails, which allow this vehicle to carry more weight on the actual roof of the vehicle. I think it's up to 800 pounds of static load. And you can see that panoramic sunroof does open up to vent air, and it's also standard equipment on the Wilderness trim and most of the trims of the Forester. If you want a pano roof, this is the only Forester or the only Wilderness model to offer that style roof. As you back away from the vehicle, you can see more of that anodized copper is present on the side, on the roof rails, and along that D pillar over here where it spells out symmetrical all-wheel drive. And then as you can see, looking at the rear design has a unique look to it itself. I personally think that the new Forester looks better from the rear as opposed to the front, and the Wilderness model definitely takes that up a notch. It's got a combination here of LED taillights along with an incandescent turn signal. You've got LED reverse lights and brake lights. It still spells out Forester at the back with this large rear window back here that really helps with the visibility. The rear wiper kind of sits at the bottom of the glass. You have a third brake light here. No digital camera rearview mirror though. And then you can see, like other Wilderness models, Subaru is boldly spelling out Subaru in the lower rear bumper with lots of additional black cladding. Another Wilderness badge over here. And then you can see the lower part of the rear fascia has a silver painted accent along with a chrome outlet single exhaust tip. And then, like I said earlier, you can get a trailer hitch on this vehicle if you want to tow up to 3,500 pounds. Now, in terms of the cargo area, this power liftgate is part of an extra charge option. But once you open up the trunk, the Forester still has among the best for cargo carrying capabilities. It's got a very large, wide opening that Subaru made larger this year and a little bit lower. And the company claims you have 27.5 cubic feet of storage space with the seats up. That number seems low on paper. Some rivals offer as much as like 35 cubic feet of storage, but still in the real world, there's a really big opening here, nice flat load floor. Love the actual cargo tray, this rubberized cargo tray that comes standard on this model. If you look underneath here, you can see there is a temporary spare. It's not a full-size matching spare, but at least it does have a temporary spare with all the tools and such underneath there, which is what you'd expect for an off-roader. This cargo cover also is nicely integrated there. If you fold down the seats, you can see just push that down. It'll fold down the seats. It also has kind of like a rubberized material back there on the actual seat back that's exclusive to the Wilderness. And Subaru says it expands the cargo to a 69.1 cubic feet of storage space, which is still very impressive. But remember, some competitors offer as much as like 75 cubic feet of storage space. If you want more space, you're gonna have to buy an Outback, which offers up to 80 cubic feet of storage space. But the Forester, I will say, is taller than most of the competitors and taller than the Outback. So you're gonna have a lot more vertical storage space in this vehicle. Now moving on to the interior of the all-new Subaru Forester Wilderness. Before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob for this vehicle. As you can see, most versions of the new Forester will come with Subaru's Intelligent Access key fob. This key fob is not a new design, but it is still a very nicely designed key that feels really good in your hands. It's a good size. It has your typical buttons here for lock, unlock, power liftgate, and a panic feature. And the key itself feels pretty high quality. Now, as you approach the door handle, as you can see, it's got a traditional pull style handle. If you touch this little area right here with the two ridges, that will lock the doors for you. This car, as you can see, does not come with power folding mirrors, which is a feature you might find on some of its rivals. When you touch the back of the door handle, that will unlock the door for you. Subaru does not offer a walkaway auto lock or unlock feature like some rivals. Now, as you can see, my particular test car with the River Rock exterior only comes with one interior color option. So if you guys want the Wilderness, I hope you guys like a combination of gray and black. This is basically their gray textured StarTex. That's what the company calls it. This StarTex material is extremely durable. It's basically water resistant. You can wipe down any kind of spills on this material. And it also comes with the same anodized copper stitching, the Wilderness badging embossed on the actual head restraints, of course. These seats also are 3-level heated. Sadly, however, you cannot get ventilated seats on the Wilderness. You have to step up to the touring grade. That's the only version of the Forester that offers ventilated seats. I also like the kind of star logo that you get that's in the actual seat pattern themselves. It kind of reminds me of a Mercedes. With the logo, but in general, the interior makes a pretty good first impression, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate the fact that this trim also comes with the all-weather floor mats in addition to the all-weather cargo mats. The driver's seat, as you can see, adjusts in 8 different ways. Sadly, it lacks a memory function. That's only on, I believe, the touring trim. And then you can see the upper portion of the door panel has a nice soft touch injection molded plastic. There's more of that StarTex here with the Wilderness badging there. It's somewhat padded here on the armrest. This is where you're gonna rest your elbow, so I'm surprised this is not softer. Window controls, only the front windows are one touch up, down. The rears are not one touch up nor down. There's also some black painted plastic door handles here. Hard touch plastic down here with some of that texturized trim. And then when you guys get that $2,200 option package, it'll roll in the 12 speaker, 576 watt Harman Kardon stereo. So if you guys are an audiophile, highly recommend adding that option package. Now, stepping inside with its 9.3 inches of ground clearance, this has among the best in the class. It has a really easy step-in height, and it actually gives you a pretty commanding view of the road as well, which is a really nice touch. As I shut the door here, the door has a pretty solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built on the updated version of the Subaru global product architecture. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see the start-stop button is right here, kind of blocked by the steering wheel though. And then you can see the headlights, they have that steering adaptive functionality. And if you guys don't get a hybrid Forester, this is the only gas-only version of the Forester that offers the fully digital 12.3-inch cluster. Now, obviously, the software behind it has been upgraded to accommodate this and show that it's a Wilderness model with the kind of Wilderness graphic in there where it shows you basically driving on a road to nowhere. But it's kind of cool how it offers that little graphic. The steering wheel itself also offers a manual tilt telescoping, which, as you can see, offers a good amount of adjustability and range. You have paddles to control the CVT, where it offers 8 different ratios. The horn, it sounds pretty nondescript, but appropriately sized. At least it's not a super puny horn. I also like the anodized copper trim over here. And then you can see lots of actual hard buttons to control the audio system, to control the Subaru EyeSight technology. And you can also use this little toggle here if you want to adjust the way that screen looks over there. You can also customize this screen to show more of an EyeSight view along with your driver assistance or your eyesight drive assistance view, or a full-on map display. This is the traditional 2-dial display, which looks really nice. No head-up display is available on the Forester, but you can see this upper portion here is hard touch plastic, but this side over here is a slightly more padded rubberized material. There's also a textured rubberized material here with some faux contrast stitch. And then you can see here, all wilderness versions of the Forester come with the bigger 11.6-inch touchscreen. Now, all but the base have basically the dual 7-inch displays. This is technically their older system, but it is an upgrade versus the previous generation. As you can see, it's a portrait style display. It's got volume and tuning knob off to the side. It's got your climate controls embedded in the actual screen. If you want to turn them on, you basically just push auto there, and you can touch this area and it'll bring up a separate climate display. I will say that this software behind the screen is their older StarTech system. It is slow, laggy, and very annoying to use. Especially when you first start the car up, it takes forever for the system to boot up. And then when you're using it, it still takes time for it to actually comprehend when you touch an area on the screen to where it actually responds. So they've got a newer system. This, to me, is very frustrating. Even though it's an improvement over the previous generation Forester, I would have liked to see Subaru, or I would like to see them refresh the car at some point and give us the new system from the Outback. I do appreciate how there's some nice ambient lighting here over the wireless phone charging pad, as you can see. This shifter controls the CVT transmission, their linear-tronic CVT. If you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with trajectory, rear cross-traffic braking, and rear parking sensors. Put the vehicle into drive, and you push this button right here, you can see there is a front-facing camera. There's no side cameras though, so no 360 camera. It's weird how the Forester has the front camera but not the side cameras. They really should have just added that. There is sadly no front parking sensors, so it just basically gives you a front view but no trajectory. The quality and resolution also is not very good. It's pretty crappy compared to even the rear view. So Subaru's newer system definitely has a much better infotainment software behind it. The rest of this interior here has a lot of additional storage. You can see, in addition to the big center cubby here for the wireless phone charging pad, you've got a storage area here, big cup holders where you can easily put taller drinks. I also love how Subaru resisted the urge to put piano black plastic here, which is nice. And then you can see you have a 12-volt power outlet here, along with your 2 USB charging ports, an A and a C that's also illuminated, an actual aux port, which I was surprised to see there as well. And then you can see nice padded center console here. If you open this up, it's a pretty decent size. No additional power outlets in there. It looks like they're all kind of located on the outside here. The seats, like I mentioned earlier, comfortable and supportive, not ventilated, but the padding is really nice. You can sit in these seats for hours and get lots of, comfortable seating positions in here and lots of space as well. You can see there's this kind of interesting textured black trim here with the anodized copper and the stars kind of going throughout the trim. That reminds me a lot of a Mercedes. And then you can see the glove box is damped but not lined with felt. It's a bin style. It offers additional covered storage, which is nice. Fit and finish in here is also pretty good. I didn't hear any squeaks and rattles, and then the visibility in this car is also among the best. You really are gonna love the big windows, the slim A-pillars. It just makes driving this vehicle really easy. You can see no auto-dimming rearview mirror or digital camera rearview mirror. I'm surprised. That's still a dealer accessory if you want that. There's at least LED map lighting in here, sunglass holder, and then what's also interesting about this car is the sunroof is big, but it's not a full pano roof like some competitors. It also does open up. You can also tilt it open, has a built-in wind deflector, but shockingly, the tint for this glass isn't very dark tinted. In fact, you can actually open it up a little bit more. If you hold that, it opens up all the way. But for a car that has a relatively big sunroof, I actually think that Subaru should have made the glass a lot more dark tinted. When you close it, it actually locks that in place. So when you open that up again, you can see it just needs a darker tint, because I would like to leave this open, but I also don't want to get roasted by the sun. So that's something that I imagine some owners will add. I noticed that same issue with the previous generation Forester and its sunroof as well. But overall, the interior definitely has some unique touches for the Wilderness model. Love the all-digital gauge displaster, hate that display, but at least it has great visibility, good amount of space, and most of the tech features that you'd want, as long as it works properly. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area of the new Forester. You can see it's raining outside, but my garage door is at least open, so I don't die in here with the engine actually running. The door locks are kind of annoying there, but once you open up the rear doors, as you can see, the doors open up in a very large manner. So there's lots of space back here to get a child seat. The doors are also offer a large opening as well. This is great for a lot of families. It's one of the reasons why people love Subarus, is because you have this huge amount of space for the back seat. This back seat area also folds down to expand the cargo. and creates an almost flat load floor, which is nice if you want to put a bed back here, if you want to sleep inside the vehicle. Sadly, these seats do not recline, but the Forester offers near best-in-class legroom at 39.5 inches of legroom. That's around 3 more inches versus the Crosstrek Wilderness, and it's around the same legroom that you get in the Outback, which is technically a class above this vehicle. Now, as I get inside, as you can see, this is basically my driving position as I shut the door. There's plenty of space to kind of breathe around in this cab, and you can see the floor is not completely flat down here, so the middle passenger has to contend with that. Let me turn this light in here so I get a little more light. You do have rear seat air vents, USB charging ports, and A and a C. No heated back seats though. There's a blank button here. This is where the touring trim would get that. You can see there's two levels of storage cubbies there, which is nice. The materials back here are hard touch plastic, sadly, on the upper portion, so it's been downgraded. It's nice and padded over here. More additional storage down here, of course. And then if you fold this down, there's an armrest here with 2 cup holders. Nice size head restraints with a soft padding as well. And then even though the sunroof takes up room back here, you can see the headroom space at 5'7". There's a solid 3 more inches of clearance for me. So again, the back seat of the Forester is definitely among the most roomiest in the segment. Just keep in mind, however, if you want heated seats back here, you're gonna have to go for the touring trim. The Wilderness does not offer it, sadly. So it's been about 4 years since I had a Wilderness version of the Subaru Forester to test for you guys for a full week. The last time I drove this vehicle was at the Media Drive out in Portland, Oregon last September. So clearly the Forester Wilderness is an important model for Subaru. In fact, Wilderness trim levels account for about 15 to 20% of the sales mix for a lot of Subaru models. This is a very popular vehicle, obviously. And the downside, of course, with the Wilderness is Subaru does not offer this trim level, this off-road oriented trim level with their hybrid powertrain. So instead we have the standard 2.5 liter Boxer flat 4 making 180 horsepower, 178 foot-pounds of torque, hooked up to a beefed up version of the Lineartronic CVT with 8 virtual gears. Of course, their symmetrical all-wheel drive system is standard with their dual function X mode. This car still has their Sport Sharp drive mode setting here. Not all Subarus get that Sport Sharp drive mode setting, so that's how you're going to get the best acceleration time. The last time we tested this new version of the Wilderness, we got like 9.7 seconds because we were also at elevation out in Portland, Oregon. So let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise in this vehicle. In fact, the last Subaru Forester Sport that I tested with this powertrain did it in around 8.6 seconds. So I expect this model to be a little bit slower because of the slightly heavier weight. So to get the best time, it's in Sport Sharp. We'll brake torque it. It just holds it right there at around 5,800 RPM, and we got 0 to 60 in 8.3 seconds there. 8.3 is actually not bad. That's a smidge slower, 0.1 second slower versus the 2022 Forester Wilderness that I tested, which did it in 8.2 seconds on that same stretch. So clearly the power figure hasn't really changed, although our Subaru has beefed up the torque, and it realizes, or it achieves its max torque figure at a lower RPM, so it makes the car feel quicker than it does, or than it used to at least from a dead stop. But at the higher RPM ranges, that's where you're going to notice this vehicle lacks some horsepower. That's where I would really love to see Subaru put a turbo engine in the Forester again. So sadly, I don't think that's going to happen, or at least the hybrid would be nice. Let's try another run here, 0 to 60 wise. This time I didn't brake torque it, I just floored it. And this vehicle also has a start-stop feature, which is kind of annoyingly laggy, but even if you don't brake torque it, it's still holding the revs there. Wow, big difference there. If you don't brake torque it, and that's with it more going slightly uphill, 9.4 seconds. So in reality, you're probably going to be looking at around a 9-second 0 to 60 time most of the time. I'll try one more run up ahead where it's level without brake torquing it and see if it, what kind of time it gives us. But 8.3 was our best. But let's be honest here, you don't buy a Subaru Forester to go drag racing in this vehicle. But in general, the Forester feels, I don't want to say peppy, but it feels adequate most of the times. The CVT in this vehicle, of course, is their Lineartronic CVT. It has 8 virtual ratios, which do a decent job of mimicking gears. It's just when you start to actually push the engine, you'll notice that when you actually pull the paddle to shift, it actually does a pretty good job of upshifting and downshifting. I'm actually really surprised. That's probably the best I've felt for a CVT that fake shifts. Ooh, that was a little bit jarry there. But in general, the engine in this car, while it does get a little buzzy above 4,000 RPM, it's for the most part smooth. It's got that characteristic Subaru Boxer growl, which a lot of people really like when they buy a Subaru. And with the raised suspension on this model, the all-terrain tires, you do notice the ride in this vehicle is noticeably softer. I mean, it's comfortable. The Forester already had a comfortable ride. This model makes it even more comfortable, especially if you're going to be driving this vehicle off-road, which Subaru claims nearly 50% of Forester Wilderness owners actually do intend to take their vehicles off-roading, which is pretty surprising. This is a car that Subaru faithful really love to actually take further off the beaten path. And I can see why. It's a great vehicle to daily drive. It's very comfortable, very practical, yet it gives you the extra capability without sacrificing the ride quality that you might get from a more traditional body-on-frame SUV. Just driving the vehicle normally, here you can see the CVT does its good job of mimicking shifts and just being really responsive. It puts the engine into that fat meat band of its power curve here, where you can actually feel it has a decent amount of torque. It just feels very lazy when you get it up above 5,000 RPM. If you're trying to accelerate onto higher speeds, you're gonna notice this car feels noticeably slower. And that's a shame because it makes this car feel a little bit more like sluggish at times, and that's where the hybrid would definitely give this vehicle a little bit more of an edge. Now, I turned off the start-stop there. It's still in Sport Sharp. Let's try another 0 to 60 run here. 8.46 seconds there. So if you brake torque it, it shaves around 0.2 seconds off the 0 to 60, 1.6 seconds off the 0 to 60. So still, just over 8.5 seconds, or around 8.5 seconds in daily driving is gonna be fine for most people. Keep in mind, if you want a quicker wilderness Subaru, the Outback Wilderness offers its turbocharged engine. The Crosstrek Wilderness also has this powertrain, but it's lighter, around 200 pounds lighter, so you're gonna get a faster 0 to 60 time from that. So this is technically the slowest version of the Wilderness, model from Subaru, but still 8.3 seconds is not too hateful, especially when you're comparing it to what people drive in this particular segment of vehicle. But switching the drive mode back into its intelligent mode here, let's go ahead and just cruise along in this vehicle. And that's where the visibility in the Forester is among the best you're gonna find. It has amazing sight lines from the front, the side, and the rear. Big, tall windshield so you can see out very easily. The hood also is nice and low. The A-pillars are also nice and skinny. This vehicle does have, of course, Subaru's latest EyeSight driver assist technology, so it has active lane keep assist, driver assistance, or automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise control. It doesn't have the hands-free driver assistance that you get in the new Outback, for example, but that version is only available on top trims of the Outback in general, so kind of keep that in mind. The steering in this car is pretty quick and direct, surprisingly, actually. And the vehicle changes directions with authority. It just has that very softly sprung suspension, which is good for people who are looking in this particular class of vehicle. The seats also, these are the unique StarTech seats that are exclusive to the Wilderness, although you can get the StarTech seats in the sport trim. These seats, for a leatherette material that you can basically wipe off pretty easily, they are comfortable and supportive. They actually have a decent amount of bolstering, but you can take this vehicle on a long drive, and it's very comfortable. It's also quiet on the inside for the most part. Subaru did add a lot more sound deadening to this new generation Forester, and that shows. There's less road noise and less wind noise in this car, although you will hear a little bit more tire drumming noise compared to other Forester models because of the all-terrain tires. It's still very nice. So I'm surprised to see Subaru has significantly upped the refinement. The one thing I don't like about this trim, it's the only Wilderness model from Subaru that lacks a heated steering wheel. You can get a heated wheel as standard on the Crosstrek Wilderness and on the Outback Wilderness, but this trim lacks a heated steering wheel. You have to step it up to the limited and up trims to get the heated steering wheel. Don't know why Subaru did that. I do like the all-digital display there. Of course, this is exclusive to the Wilderness. It's optional. And then, of course, you have the 11.6-inch display with the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. The system here is the older system, and I have to say it's not good. I really am looking forward to testing out the Outback for a full week, which I'm getting next month, so I can test out Subaru's newest system, because this is slow, laggy. It's slow to start up when you first start the vehicle, and then when you start to, interact with the screen, it's still very, very slow. At least the heated seats function works well. No cooled seats, sadly, on this model. If you want a cooled seat Wilderness model, you have to buy an Outback. And then in terms of the real-world fuel efficiency, this model gets a significantly lower highway rating, around 28 versus 33, so it's a 5 mpg reduction. However, the combined rating is 26, and in my week's worth of testing, I averaged 25 miles to the gallon, and mostly city driving, which is actually not bad. It's pretty good considering this is not a hybrid. Now, keep in mind, the hybrid Forester will get 10 mpg better almost in city driving.
On the highway, this model did around 29 mpg, so obviously not as good on the highway compared to the other trims of the Forester. That's because of the raised ground clearance. The raised roof rails add aerodynamic drag, and this tires add more aerodynamic drag. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged just under 400 miles of range in real world driving. That's because this vehicle has a bigger 16.6 gallon fuel tank. It's not bad. I mean, yes, a hybrid Wilderness would probably do better in the city, but on the highway, I imagine it probably won't do much better because of the aerodynamic drag. But in general, this new generation Forester, while I wasn't really the biggest fans of the exterior looks, the Wilderness fixes that. This adds that extra capability. I still would love to see Subaru add their newest infotainment software in this car. This, again, is better versus the previous generation Forester, but it still is grossly, you know, behind a lot of its rivals. But I think with the new Wilderness version of the Forester, Subaru definitely adds more capability, adds more style, while at the same time adding more practicality. I'm just not entirely sure I would recommend this car over other trims like the touring version or the hybrid version of the Forester. You're only really going to pick this if you regularly plan to take this vehicle further off the beaten path, but at least you'll be happy to know it doesn't sacrifice the comfort and practicality on road if you do end up buying this model.
Now, last year in America, Subaru managed to sell around 175,000 Foresters in all of 2025. It basically was the company's second best-selling model, right behind the Subaru Crosstrek, which had its best sales year ever at around 191,000 units. So obviously, the all-new 6th generation Forester has been doing well for Subaru, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this model potentially overtake the Crosstrek at some point. Now, of course, that the hybrid is in the lineup, the Wilderness model is in the lineup, although technically Subaru offers those same two choices for the Crosstrek. In general, the Forester strikes a nice middle ground, and after spending a full week with the Wilderness model, I've managed to spend a full week with the Sport, with the hybrid version, and of course this Wilderness trim. I have to say, the Wilderness is definitely my favorite in terms of the exterior design. I still wasn't really a fan of the regular Forester in terms of its looks, but this butcher, more aggressive design with all the anodized copper trim and the all-terrain tires definitely gives this car a much more attitude, and I really appreciate the styling elements that Subaru gave this car. The ride quality also is among the most comfortable you're going to find. It's one of the most capable crossover vehicles you're going to find as well, with a lot of functionality and a ton of value baked in. The standard 2.5 liter Boxer flat four delivers adequate acceleration. As you guys saw, 0 to 60 in 8.3 seconds means this car is a little bit slower than the last hybrid that I tested, which took 7.9 seconds, but it's also a little faster versus the last Forester Sport that I tested, which took 8.6 seconds. I suspect it has to do with the revised CVT tuning. Typically, the Wilderness models are a little bit faster than the base versions of the powertrain because of that upgraded and beefed up CVT. The backseat also is extremely usable and roomy, the same with the cargo area. And really the downfall with this current generation Forester for me is the infotainment system. It is still their older infotainment head unit from Starlink. It's really slow, it's really laggy, it's really buggy. It takes forever for it to boot up. And then once you're actually using it, there are still times where it's very slow and laggy that I just was super frustrated with the screen. Thankfully, it has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but again, Subaru has a brand new system in the all-new Outback, which as of this filming, I haven't spent a full week with yet, but I will be doing so very soon, and I'm really hopeful that Subaru will eventually refresh this car and introduce that all-new infotainment system. Now, of course, the Forester also remains a very strong value in the segment. Subaru offers the base version. They still offer a base, unlike the Outback, with a starting price of just under 30 grand at $29,995. Most of you will step it up to the premium trim for around $34,000. The Sport's around $36,000, but here's the kicker. The Wilderness trim actually is kind of in the middle. It starts at $38,385, which is a strong value because if you're looking at something like the Honda CR-V Trail Sport, which let's be honest here, the Trail Sport CR-V is one of the most disappointing off-road oriented compact SUVs that I've ever tested. That has a starting price of around $38,900. The Toyota RAV4 Woodland Edition, which I haven't had a chance to test the new version out for a full week, also starts at around $39,000. The real only competitor that competes with this vehicle that actually has upgraded off-road hardware is the Bronco Sport Badlands. And that model also starts at around 39 grand. However, with options that my test car has, which is mainly just one option package for $2,200 that includes the upgraded navigation head unit, the Harman Kardon stereo, the power liftgate, and the all-digital cluster for $2,200. With the $395 upcharge for this color and destination, you're looking at an as-tested price of $42,430. That's a strong value, like I said, at 42 grand. Keep in mind, if you're looking at a RAV4 Woodland with similar options, that vehicle is also around $42,000. The CRV is a little bit cheaper at around $40,000, but at the same time, it has far less equipment versus this Wilderness Forester. And then of course, there's the Bronco Sport Badlands. When you add the Sasquatch package and some of the options that brings it to the equipment of this vehicle, it costs around $48,000. Granted, the Ford does have a 2-liter turbo EcoBoost engine, but still, $42,400 for this model is a strong value. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Subaru increase the market share of their Wilderness trim. And I really also am hoping that they'll expand the availability of the hybrid powertrain onto this model, because I really do think it'll do well if Subaru would offer their hybrid powertrain on the Wilderness trim. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my very detailed overview on the latest version of the Subaru Forester in the off-road ready Wilderness trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.